In this video, we're going to be taking a Hefty Fabworks all aluminum bumper and putting it on the front of my 2008 Nissan Xterra. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you order one of these guys from the website. There are actually two options for the second generation Xterra. There's a 2005 to 2008 and a 2009 Plus. Not exactly sure what the differences are, but I'm gonna guess it has something to do with the mounting points. I already have the bumper off my truck. I've been driving this like this for about a month now. Ever since I put in the Hefty Fabworks aluminum skid plates. I have the radiator and the engine skid plate. So I already have part of the work, the stripping part, done. But we're going to take off this bash bar and put on the bumper in its stead. Hefty Fabworks is located in Colorado. So what they will do is they'll ship this to you via FedEx Freight. They didn't have the option to have it shipped to my house, so I had to pick it up at FedEx Freight. One thing I would recommend you do is you fold down the seats, because it is a kind of a tight squeeze in here. It will fit, you're just gonna have to angle it a little bit. Drive slow so it doesn't slide into the back of your head as you're driving it home. But this is how it looks like when it comes. It's actually sitting on a pallet. You gotta cut it off the pallet. Make sure you inspect it before you receive it and accept it, is just in case the FedEx screwed it up when they shipped it and might have banged it up. Mine came in good shape, so no worries. All right, let's dig in here. So there's the bumper, it's on the ground. The nice thing about this bumper is it's actually pretty light. I think it's only about 55 pounds. So grab my knife. This is probably a little overkill, but I'm just gonna peel some stuff away first. Got some stickers, that's kind of cool. So here's everything that comes in the packaging. We've got the bumper itself, we've got some mounting brackets, and some hardware. So step one to get the new bumper on the truck is to get the old bumper off. Now this is really just a big flimsy piece of plastic. It's a big plastic fascia that sits on front of the bumper. This right here is actually the bash bar, the actual bumper. I don't have a video of how to do this, but I will post a link to a video on YouTube that I used to figure out how to take this thing off. It wasn't really hard. There's a couple of bolts here, a couple of bolts here. I did have to remove this front fascia first to get to all the bolts to remove this piece, but it's really, really easy. And I put the fascia back on with zip ties. Okay, next step, we gotta get the bumper off the truck. I already have the bumper liner off. I've been driving like that for about a month now. So we just gotta get this bash bar off the truck so we can make room for the new bumper. There are 4 bolts that I can see right now. Haven't really looked very hard yet, but they're 17mm bolt. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like the nut is actually welded to the frame, so we don't need another wrench. Just a little extension on it. Okay. All right, so this thing isn't super heavy, but I do recommend keeping a hand on it when you're taking off that last bolt, and maybe wedge your knee underneath it so it doesn't come slamming down to the ground. Totally optional, but it is kind of rusty in here, so I'm just gonna put some Rust-Oleum on it. Next up, we need to install the brackets for the bumper here. This is going to go on the frame here and also underneath. So I already have the radiator skid plate bolted up because I've been running around with this for a few weeks, but I need to undo this, take these 2 bolts out so this part can go underneath and the skid plate will go on top. This one takes a 19mm socket. Much easier, but I didn't want to use it before because the neighbors might still be sleeping. But whatevs. So I was debating whether or not we needed this plastic thing, but it looks like it's just in the way. So we have to try to cut this thing out. This plastic thing is definitely in the way. I need to get it out, but I can't seem to get to it because the fascia is in the way. So I'm just gonna unsnip the zip ties that are holding it in there. Then, okay, so this thing is connected with some pop brackets here, and there's one up here behind the fascia, so you're going to have to move the fascia a little bit to get to it. So I don't really care about keeping it, so I'm just going to grab a screwdriver and pop it off. Or some meat on those tires. So, just jam this in here, lift up, snap. Now, this useless piece of plastic, now, go away. Let's do the other side. So just so you can see where the pop rivet is, it's actually right behind the fascia here, and it's this guy that I'm trying to take out. So this piece needs to come off so the whole plastic piece can come out. So there it is. This side's a little complicated because there's some electrical loom in the way, but not a big deal. Just gonna try to navigate through it. This wire loom's in the way, so I'm just gonna, I just undid the zip tie there. I'll replace it with another one later, but now this thing can go away. Alright, so now that we've got the plastic pieces out of the way, I don't know what this foam piece is. I'll just leave it, it's whatever. I'm going to take this bracket, it's going to line up in here, underneath the skid plate, and just slide through the back. Slide to the back here. Just need to, there you go. Alright, so hand tight for now. We'll tighten those up again later. Now this is on the truck. Now there's a bunch of holes on the side here. I think that these are there for adjustment if you have a body lift on the truck. I don't have a body lift, so I'm just gonna, I guess, set it to the, I'll figure that out later. So fun little plot twist. There's a couple of these bolts down here. These two guys right here. These just line up the skid plate on here. And when I unbolted it, it kind of shifted around, and now I can't really slide it back. So I got to loosen these so that I can move the skid plate around again and just kind of get it aligned up again. So recommend, if you already have the skid plate on the truck, to loosen these up, or just take the skid plate off completely, so that you can line it all up again a lot more easily. I was kind of trying to shove it and move it around, but it wasn't wanting to go because this is too tight, and now it doesn't want to slide that direction on this side. But this side, it seems to be loose enough where I can kind of get some play. So you can see there, I can move around. This side is not doing the same thing. So I'm going to loosen both sides so I can line up the skid plate again and then bolt it back up to the frame. Now to loosen that, it takes a 13mm bolt, 13mm socket. Alright, so frame horn mounts are on here. They're pretty good. They're on there pretty good. I just kind of hand tighten these guys. Tighten the bottom ones. I think it should be fine. The next thing we need to do is we need to grab the bumper and line it up to see where this is going to sit. So one thing I want to highlight before I put the bumper on the truck is that this space right here is designed to put a winch. So I don't have my winch yet, but this is where it would bolt up. When I get my winch, I'm going to pull the bumper back off and then stick the winch in there and put the bumper on. As I was mocking up the bumper to see where it would line up on here, I noticed that this metal piece is in the way. It needs to come out. Now, I was using it to support the grill, but it needs to go away, so I would just kind of snap them, cut off all the zip ties. I had zip ties here, 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 and here to stabilize the grill, but now we got to take this entire metal piece off. It's really not that thick. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts holding it on. Actually, I lied, there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Looks like that's going to be a 10 millimeter. I'm just guessing. 10 millimeter. Cool. Now, it's a really funky spot, so you're going to need some sort of extension to get even in there. So, long extension to the rescue. So, looks like you need a deep 10. Now, deep socket 10 because the head of the bolt's actually kind of long, so deep socket 10 millimeter, there we go. And let's not do this manually, manual sucks. Let's go here. Oops, wrong way. Looks like there's some electrical hanging on this, so just gonna snip the zip ties that are holding the wire thing on there. Freedom. Okay, so this guy, don't need anymore. To dress this up, I'm probably just going to take some zip tie and push this in to here just to kind of keep it out of the way. And while I'm in here, I think this piece probably is not needed either. This is probably in the way too, so let's get rid of that. So again, here's another section where that wire loom is zip tied to stuff. So I'm going to cut that out just really carefully. So that we can get rid of this unnecessary plastic piece. It's actually metal, I think. Okay, so now we've got some space. So I'm going to move this stuff back. I'm probably going to zip tie this now because it's probably going to get in the way when I try to put the bumper on here. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, so now this is all cleared up and we have a lot of space in here. You can actually see this is what it looks like with all the stuff off. So there was that metal piece that was here that supported the grill. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get the grill to stay on the truck now. And the metal supports here and there. So now the goal is to get the bumper on here mocked up to see what it's gonna look like, and then we'll bolt it up. So this next part's gonna be a lot easier if I had a friend here to help me with this, but I don't. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prep the bolts. So I've got the bolts with the washer already on there, and I'm just gonna set them on the core support there, so that when I bring the bumper in and line it up, I can just support it with my leg and then throw the bolts in there real fast so that it doesn't fall down, and then I can tighten them up. Remember earlier we were talking about how these line up here? There's like they're long grooves here so that you can slide the bumper up and down to adjust for a body lift or whatever you might have. But you also don't want to have this part too tightened down because you want it to be able to shift side to side. Now I'm just gonna line it up here, and it looks like it goes on the inside. So I'm just gonna find the holes there, line them up. There it is. All right, I got one side in. Now this side. Cool. All right, so I only really need one on each side to get it so it doesn't fall down. Be careful you don't hit your face on the latch. I just did that right now and that sucked. All right, so we can go washer first, then lock washer, and then the nut. I might actually get lucky. I'm not sure yet, but this gap here might be big enough to fit the winch without having to take the bumper off later, but I won't know until I get the winch. So to lock this down, I'm going to need a 19mm box wrench and a 19mm socket. I'm going to continue to support the bumper with my leg here so that there's no pressure on the bolts, and then we'll see how it goes after that. Nice. I've got this side tightened down pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm just want to show you the gap here. I think this is pretty acceptable right there. So this is going to allow the fender to kind of move back and forth when the body flexes on the trail. We don't want this to be touching right now, because if they are, I'm probably going to crush this fender with any sort of body flex. So I think this is going to be a good enough gap. If it's not, and I see that the fender is hitting the bumper on the trail, I'll just loosen up the bumper a little bit and slide it down using those grooves to kind of make a little bit more room. But I think I'm pretty happy with this gap for now. So there's pretty good gap there. Now I just need to repeat it over here. So you can see the gap is a little bit bigger over here because I haven't tightened this side down yet. But that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I button up this side, and right now as it sits, this side is a little bit higher than this side, and I'm liking the gap over here a little bit better. So I'm going to come back over here, loosen these bolts up, and then lift it up just a touch so that the gap closes up a little here. There's still going to be a lot of room here, so we should be in good shape. All right, so that should be enough to hold it on there. Now let's take a look and see if it's even. So we've got some good gap on the fender there. Looks pretty even side to side now, I think. So actually now I feel like this side is a little bit lower, just based on what I can see on the gap here on the fender. So yeah, definitely this side's a little bit lower. So let's go ahead and loosen this side and lift it up a little bit more. All right, so everything's bolted up. I've got the 6 bolts on the frame horn mount all locked down. As you can see from here, I've got it slid up basically all the way up as high as it'll go. It's maxed out. I could lower it down if I wanted to, but I'm pretty happy with the gap here. So you can see there's still some room for the fenders to move around if the body's flexing, but overall it's nice and tight to the front of the truck. So coming up pretty soon, I'm gonna have that winch. I'm gonna take this off again and put the winch in there, and also mount some lights. So stay tuned for that. Last thing I gotta do is figure out how I'm gonna mount my grill on the truck. So, and also probably put my license plate, I think will go right in there. So that's kind of cool. All right, state of California is kind of lame. We still need to have a license plate on the truck, but thankfully Hefty Fabworks put these holes right here, which is perfect for the license plate. Now, I don't have the bolts right now. I'll probably go to Home Depot later and grab the bolts to go through here, and probably get the ones that have like the teeth on the back, so I don't have to stick a wrench back there. They just kind of grab on. But for now, zip ties fix everything. Haha, there we go. Snip off the extra. Cool. License plate's on. No big deal. Now let's do the grill. So, grill sits in. Wedged in pretty nice. So I'm just gonna zip tie it looks like it's good. Sweet. Pretty stoked with the final product. It looks pretty clean. Everything's nice and tight. So, should be pretty awesome. Next up, we'll get the winch set up in there and get some recovery points in here. But we should be good to go. Thanks for watching, guys.